We all know the mash unit the Chargers offensive line has been in 2025, but the good news is some reinforcements came on Monday and one of Greg Roman's old friends.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day as part of the #1 sports podcast network. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, the Baltimore to LA pipeline is alive and well as another former Raven finds his way with the Chargers. Of course, I'm speaking about Ben Cleveland. We got to talk about that move. Could he even play as soon as this Sunday? I don't know about that. That's going to be an interesting topic to talk about. But Trevor Penning, he played very, very well. And I think there's a good argument that he should be playing on Sunday. Omarion Hampton left the last game that we saw him playing with an injury. How severe is it? Is he going to be ready for Sunday's wild card playoff game?
Yeah, man, and like for a player who's as important as he is, I think there's always going to be some concern, when he missed the game, even though obviously it's week 18, so it's just hard to know how much stock to put into it. But it is Buy or Sell Tuesday, getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions and a playoff edition of it. And, first time in our 10 years that we've got to do this in back-to-back years, so, we're going to celebrate that part of it.
Amen.
But the Chargers gave us some news on Monday when they signed Greg Roman and Joe Ortiz's old friend, Ben Cleveland, who was waived by the Ravens earlier this week, in part because he was suspended 3 games and just came back from that after a February DUI. And this is also kind of a shift in what the Chargers have done in years past, right? Where usually they would stay away from someone maybe who has this kind of off-the-field incident, but they obviously know the player very well. Joe Ortiz knows the man very well, and they're willing to kind of make a move like this to help the team and know that it's not going to cause a distraction or have something else come up down the road. But the good news with him, as opposed to just signing anyone off the street, David, is this is someone who's familiar with what the Chargers have going on. So the learning curve is not nearly as steep as it would be for maybe a Bobby Hart when they brought him in, right? Because this is a guy that was drafted by Joe Ortiz and the Ravens front office and also played in Greg Roman's offense in 2021 and 2022.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a hand-in-glove fit. As soon as it was announced that he was released, that it just seemed like a move that made a ton of sense. The Chargers have rotated so many different bodies in and out of the offensive line, just trying to find any kind of answers to the problems that they have been trying to solve all season long. And so this is a move that was just more of a matter of when and not if, and it happened rather quickly with him being brought in on Monday.
Yeah, and I think for just what he kind of brings to the table, it's an interesting case study because he is a guy that was drafted with a 3rd-round pick, a top 100 pick at that, and also, was with Greg Roman, but wasn't starting consistently with Greg Roman. I mean, he has 688 career snaps, which, for someone who's drafted in 2021, that's not a ton of career snaps. Some versatility, obviously, 392 snaps at left guard, 247 snaps at right guard, only 10 snaps at center. So I don't think that's going to, do anything for you anytime soon. And I know there also probably are people who are kind of scarred by the signing of Bradley Bozeman, an old friend from Baltimore, and Greg Roman and Joe Ortiz's time there. But it is interesting because obviously they see something in him, and what the impact he will bring is yet to be determined, which is, I think, why we get this here from Sean M., who says, buy or sell newly acquired guard Ben Cleveland will start at guard for the playoffs. Also, shout out to Donald Rickert, was just a little bit early, but had said buy or sell the Chargers should bring in Ben Cleveland. And then obviously they did on Monday. So shout out to you, Donald. But as far as if he's going to start at guard for the playoffs, I just think it's probably too much too soon. And if he does, it would probably be due to an injury because this is a depth piece assigned to the practice squad, and we know anyone can get elevated at any time. After seeing Branson Taylor on Sunday, I think also, hey, you could use another body there. And we're talking about, Branson Taylor playing in that game, but also guys like Foster Sherrill having to play meaningful snaps for them. You need depth at that position for sure, especially in a playoff that every week you could lose someone, right, and need somebody to step in for you. in a short notice. So I don't think he would start just based on his merit this week, so I wouldn't get fans excited about that. But I do think it is nice depth to have, even if it's a week-to-week playoff format.
Yeah, it's a new season, right? And we all know that the offensive line is so incredibly important, and there's attrition always. So to continuously look for upgrades, look for help at any point in time, I think is just a calling card of Chargers general manager Joe Ortiz that we have to applaud. It's one thing to say, it's another thing to do it, and he has consistently done it from the very beginning of being the Chargers general manager last year, and has continued on to this year. I mean, literally leaving no stone unturned. A guy who has some experience, has some versatility, has some comfortability with how Greg Roman likes to play. But no, there's no way he's going to be starting in this playoff game on Sunday. I just think that's way too much to ask for them to get him ingratiated in the plan, with the play calls, with the verbiage. There's just not enough time to be able to onboard him and expect him to be able to go out there and play at a high level. I just think that's way too much to ask.
Well, and it's also a guy who couldn't win a starting spot,
Right.
in Greg Roman's offenses last year, and has dealt with some injuries as well, but has been, somewhat of a disappointment, but obviously someone that has some potential. And I think that as far as, the verbiage and stuff like that, yeah, like he's been in Todd Monken's offense, not Greg Roman's last few years, but does still have, the database probably stored up to at least have a smoother entrance to what the Chargers are doing now, and could be played in a pinch, I'm sure. But no, I don't think he's going to start. But I do think also when you look at this team and the guys they have in the room now, like this might not only be a for right now situation. Get him in the building, maybe see if he's someone you want to bring around for depth in 2026 and beyond. Because this year you went into it with Mekhi Becton and Zion Johnson as your backups as far as the guards go. And then behind them, Trey Pipkins and Jamari Sawyer, who you both, saw both struggle in 2024 playing those positions. So get more bodies, give yourself more chances, more swings. More at bats for sure, because look at Bobby Hart. For every guy they picked up that hasn't worked out, sometimes it does. So I think it's nice to have him around. Let's get to this one from Voodoo, who says, buy or sell Trevor Penning played well enough to be starting right guard for the playoffs. David, this is something we talked about. If it could become a storyline, if he played very well in Week 18, because it was against a great defense and their starters on defense needing that win, this is something that seems a little bit more plausible.
That it definitely does. With Trevor Penning's performance here, 77 snaps, he did give up a sack, 5 pressures allowed, but he was fantastic as a run blocker. Overall, an 81.6 grade, but he had a 87.2 run block grade. So that nastiness that we all know that he brings to the table, it showed itself. And with Mekhi Becton, his best game of the year was the first game of the season. After that, it pretty much went downhill from there. We haven't really seen that same level of play. And if you're not going to pass protect and you're not going to run block well, then if we have somebody that can come in and provide some quality at one of those aspects, then I think you highly consider putting him out there. Trevor Penning was helpful in the running game, was impactful, and Mekhi Becton has not been impactful as a run blocker very much at all this season.
And the thing about Penning is I had to go back and watch it just to see, because I know PFF charged him with 5 pressures, which was only, one fewer than Austin Deculus, who led the team and had a nightmarish day and some really quick losses, including the strip sack on Trey Lance. He definitely, I guess, gave up some pressure. There was a couple times where his anchor was tested. He got pushed back a little bit into Trey Lance's lap, but none of them probably would have led to sacks without other guys around him losing and kind of giving Trey Lance nowhere to go. But I thought the big thing from him, though, was he always stayed in front of the guy. There's just been too many times where
that's pretty helpful.
Guys, he's getting pushed into Trey Lance's lap, and a few of those ended up being completions down the field where, he might have been rushed or hurried a little bit, but still was able to complete a pass and not just get destroyed afterwards. So I thought, even though he did give up some pressures, I think that the reason his pass blocking grade actually wasn't bad in that game was he didn't have quick losses, and also he was still able to kind of maintain the guy in front of him and keep him in front of him and not just let him tee off on the quarterback, which is something, it's been pretty rare. So I don't know if it'll happen, but I think the thing is, if Mekhi Becton starts this game and even has a slight limp or something at some point, I think it could be Trevor Penning going in and not giving that spot back if he has a good game and they end up winning. But
Yeah.
we do have a bigger concern than that, and that is Omarion Hampton, who missed last week, and we weren't sure, is it because it's week 18? Are they just resting him? Now I'm a little bit more concerned than I was then. We're going to talk about how big of a deal that will be going into the playoffs and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. You want someone in network, nearby, with availability, but you also want a doctor who really listens, makes you feel comfortable, and explains things clearly and helps you walk out feeling confident about your next step. Your diamond in the rough doctor exists, and finding them is easy with Zocdoc. Zocdoc is a free app and a website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can choose someone that you truly connect with. I love the fact that you can search for specialty symptoms or quickly find the right fit. Being able to choose in-person or video also makes scheduling way easier, and also the real-time availability means that you can book instantly with no tag. I really love Zocdoc, and appointments usually happen within 24 to 72 hours, which is great. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks to Zocdoc for sponsoring this message. Also, I need to tell you guys that the draft picks positions are set and so many teams are looking for their franchise quarterback. Ever wish to become a pro quarterback getting drafted first overall by the Chargers potentially? Well, now you can. There's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number one draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. Does that sound familiar? Sign contracts, train and upgrade yourself, build chemistry, and evolve your teammates. Give input to your GM on roster moves. Play the actual games in 2D, which I love, and the rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and what I love is 100% offline and works that way. Perfect for when you want to sneak a quick game or two in on the go if you're on a plane. Whatever the case is, just head to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimateqb.com, or search Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special for you guys. Use the promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, in-game in the store to get a free boost to start your career. Ultimate QB, Football Legend QB1, it's your legacy. David, we have more buy or sells to get into, and there is a storyline and something brewing that I think we have to address, and that is the potential availability of Chargers rookie running back Omarion Hampton. And we have this one here from Omar Aguilar, who says, buy or sell, we should be worried about Omarion Hampton's status for the game. It's early in the week, but Jim Harbaugh wasn't really confirming anything when he stepped to the podium on Monday. Are you concerned about the availability of Omarion Hampton?
Yeah, I am a little concerned about it because it's an ankle injury, and obviously he fractured his ankle and missed like 2 months of this season. So, yeah, I don't know how you couldn't be concerned with it. Obviously, we don't know the extent. We don't know anything, and that's the what the Chargers have done this year, how they've handled injuries. They just don't put any information out. You won't hear about it until they want you to hear about it, or if the player themselves confirms the injury and tells you. It's just how they've gone about it. So, yeah, I mean, they specifically stated that they held him out because of injury. All the other players that they held out, they basically said that, they're holding him out because they want to get them rest. And that wasn't how they explained the Omarion Hampton situation. So, yeah, I am a little bit concerned because he is the most explosive type of player at the running back position that the Chargers have to offer. And he is a big part of the offense and will be a big part of this victory that the Chargers are trying to acquire if he is able to get on the football field.
Absolutely. Yeah, if there's any chance he can't play, it is very concerning. I think we all see how important he is to this offense. I think it was hard because I know you people saw him limping around in the Texans game, but I didn't think he had left the game due to injury. Also, you have Jim Harbaugh. I think the part that kind of scares you a little bit is Daniel Popper, the athletics beat reporter for the Chargers, asking him specifically, like, hey, do you think he's something that's kind of trending in the right direction? I know we'll hear more Wednesday. And he said, I feel like he's doing anything and everything he can to get back as fast as he can. So you also have Adam Schefter, maybe a little bit better tonally, where you have him saying last week on Pat McAfee about Omarion Hampton, they're going to rest his ankle for the playoffs this week, is what he had said last week. It's hard to say. Yeah, when you have a fractured ankle, it's going to concern me, if you're missing a game because of that. And I don't know if he would have played even if it wasn't banged up, right? So I think that's the hard part of it. But like the Chargers did decide to give Kamani Vidal a really light workload last week, right? And I just think that for them, if it's not a guarantee he's going to play or if he's not at 100%, that makes a big difference for your offense. And I think, if he is out there, he could have a tremendous impact for you, and I think that's what Athir thinks as well.
Daniel, David, Athir, Bio Cell Tuesday, and Overreaction. Omarion Hampton will be the X factor in the playoffs Sunday versus the Patriots for Herbie to get his first win. Stay tuned for Bold Prediction Sunday. Your thoughts, please. Thank you.
I think I'm buying this in a big way just from the standpoint of like when you try to envision the Chargers having a potential playoff run this year, I think it's hard to imagine that without getting a big impact from their star rookie running back.
I agree. I mean, you got to have the balance. The Chargers offense is at their best when they have that balance on offense. When they're able to attack the edges of the defense, and you see what Omarion Hampton's capable of doing when he gets that edge and he hits the Jets. He can really go. He could take it to the house. He can take it the distance for sure. So having that threat, and obviously, you see how he runs. He runs angry. He runs physical. He breaks tackles. He gets extra yards. Like, he is a catalyst, an offensive catalyst. He's a guy that helps keep the Chargers offense on the football field. So yes, Omarion Hampton absolutely has every ability to be a huge X factor in this game on Sunday night.
Yeah, and just in the playoffs in general, right? If they were to make it through this. But I do agree with you, especially from the standpoint of just like he plays a January playoff style of football. And like everyone can look at that Texans game where they just got completely overmatched by that defensive front and see the yards per carry and not realize that he did such a good job just to keep them not behind the sticks in that game with how little he actually had going for him. And I do agree with you that this Chargers offense kind of goes as their running game goes. And so, like, when you and on another part of it is it has a tendency to completely disappear sometimes, like it did last year in their playoff loss to the Houston Texans, right? So I think this isn't that defense, which is great news.
No,
but yeah, I mean the Patriots have also allowed 160 plus rushing yards in 3 of the last 4 games. So if you want to look for a weakness on that team, shrinking the chances that Drake May has, it feels like that is a big part of it. And also, you have a great stat here from MIBPJ, who's a good follow on Twitter, who says the Chargers Justin Herbert led the Chargers in rushing 7 times this season. The next closest quarterback was Patrick Mahomes 4 times. He did it. So, I would like for that not to be the case. I'd love for Justin Herbert to have a good rushing day, but I don't need him to be the leading carrier because that's, I think, what you see in that stat is all the times the rest of the running game has kind of disappeared, and it wasn't the running backs having the big game on the ground. But let's get to this last one here quickly from Jose Alto, who says, buy or sell, maybe it's a different X factor. The Chargers pass rush will be the deciding factor for this Sunday's game. If they can create good pressure on Drake May, he'll make enough mistakes to give the Chargers the win. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I think this is 100% a fact. I think the Chargers pass rush going up against the Patriots. You look at the Patriots and their offensive line, how many pressures, how many sacks. They don't give up a lot. They've been pretty steady. And part of that is because they do a great job schematically of getting the ball out of Drake May's hands quickly. It's a lot of quick passes. It's a lot of 2-step, 3-step drops, half-field reads, just trying to get the ball out quickly. And I'm not saying he doesn't create and he doesn't make plays. He definitely does for sure. But that's a big part of the offense. And if you can get in his face, he has some running ability, but if you're able to keep him in the pocket, swarm him, and get him down, he is no question about it affected by good pressure in his face. He will make mistakes if you get in his face and pressure him, and I think the Chargers pass rush absolutely can do that.
They definitely can. I mean, they did a great job of it last week with their backups against, one of the better pass protecting offensive lines in the entire league. Obviously, they were banged up in that game too, but still, they've shown it, and they did it in week 3 when they played the Broncos too against a really good offensive line. And Rafe Owe has been great. Thule and Khalil Mack both coming off of a week of rest. But yeah, Drake May as the scrambler, I think scares me the most. 450 rushing yards this season, 4th in the league by quarterbacks. Justin Herbert 2nd at 498. But I do think if they can't affect him, they're going to get picked apart because he is one of the more prolific deep passers in the entire NFL as well. So if you give them the time to send those shots, it's going to be really hard for you to stop all of them, right? So, yeah, I think it's a huge part of it. I'd also say the other huge factor will be the Chargers cornerback room, a room that's been really good, having a great game on Sunday. But we still have more to get into, including if the Chargers are a year too early to be true Super Bowl contenders. We're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys that Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises, and it's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it, but I'm going to be still looking at football this week as the Chargers are still playing, and they are currently 3.5-point underdogs against the Patriots in New England. The good news is they were also underdogs against the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Eagles, and pulled all of those off. So if you want to bet on basketball before tip-off, check out the NBA FanDuel app and see what's dropping during the NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. David, let's continue getting into these buy or sells and the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions that we have going into a gigantic playoff game for the Chargers this weekend, where they get the chance to shock the world and hopefully get Justin Herbert his first playoff win. But we have a fan here that's looking a little bit more forward than that here from Bolt Burt, who says, buy or sell. This year is for experience and hopefully we get a win. But next year, with all the cap budget and a third draft, is when we are actually going to become Super Bowl contenders. Year 3 of Harbaugh is when I'm expecting a big leap for us. Year 1 was get your feet wet. Year 2, you keep building. And now you have this in 2026 potentially. David, are you buying or selling that?
Yeah, I'm going to buy it. And part of the reason why I'm going to buy it is because I'm hoping that this is contingent on having both of your tackles back and healthy and as close to 100% as they can be. You know, obviously with Rashawn Slater's injury, it happened before the season started. We know that that type of injury can have a very big effect on how they perform on the football field. So knowing what we know about Rashawn, though, I think he's going to be able to get back on the field and be a good football player as well. He's still young. He is a relentless worker off the field. So I feel very comfortable that he's going to be able to come back and be the Rashawn Slater that we all know. But getting another draft and hopefully spending the money that they get in a more intentional way to help correct the problems, because if they get ousted from the playoffs again for the same exact reason, the same problems that they haven't corrected through 2 years, then that's something that we have to start being a little bit more critical about.
Yeah, I don't know if I can be much more critical than I've been about how they've, especially in free agency, addressed that offensive line. But I take your point. I buy it. I mean, I think when Jim Harbaugh took over, I mean, we talked about it. It's been a long time, but like it felt like 2026 would be the year. And I think it's because of a big reason. Jim Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz took over a team that had Justin Herbert, yes, but also was an aging roster that was about $50 million over the salary cap.
Yeah.
And had major changes foundationally that had to be done. I mean, you had Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack taking up, $100+ million of your salary cap in 1 year. So like they got put in a tough spot, but like there is, I think, intention to the roster building. And I think that's the intention, is to build a sustainable winner, not a flash in the pan, but no overbloated long contracts. And most importantly, hitting on a huge percentage of your draft picks. And I think this will probably be, with only 5 picks as of now, a big trade back year for the Chargers. And they've shown basically in every round except for round 7, they can find someone that's going to be able to contribute. So the more picks, the better. And hopefully teams will be willing to play that game and let them trade back with them. But yeah, adding one more draft class to the 2 that he's already had right now and getting more players that will be contributors for them next year and having other guys take their second year leap, like, yeah, I think that will make a big difference. And the big thing is they have all the salary cap they need. They still have a lot of free agents and could have a lot of turnover, but every year it's a little bit less because you have younger guys being able to come in and fill the spots that you're having to fill with the Hayden Hursts of the world and the Tyler Conklins of the world, because you've had to make so many little free agent signings to fill so many holes that these big numbers that they have available to them have dried up quickly. But the one thing is those aren't damning them in future years, and you're not getting J.C. Jackson contracts. Now, as far as Rashawn Slater goes, I'm going to tell you what I believe, which is that Rashawn Slater will give them much better than they've gotten at left tackle all season as a whole this year, pretty much no matter what in my mind. I understand the extent of the injury. There's nothing that Rashawn Slater has ever shown me to make me think that he's not going to come back and still be a competitive, good left tackle for the Chargers. So I'm going to assume that until otherwise, right? Like, does that mean you don't have backup plans and contingencies in place because of that injury? No. But I'm going to assume that the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL this offseason is going to come back and give them something at left tackle. And I do think that 2026 is when it is, you are a dangerous contending championship team if you stay on the trajectory that they're on right now. And I think if they had Joe Alt and they had Rashawn Slater right now, I think they'd be a year ahead of schedule and be absolutely contenders right now in this playoff run. But there's my spiel. Let's get to this next one here from Jackson, who says, if the Chargers beat the Patriots, then the Chargers will advance to an AFC Championship game appearance. The number 1 seed is Denver, and with the way their reserves on defense put the clamps on the Broncos offense, I'm buying it. David, are you buying it?
Yeah, I'm buying it. I mean, the Chargers know the Broncos exceptionally well. They know what they want to do, and they have had Bo Nix dazed and confused every single time that Jesse Minter has played him. You look at the average depth of target, it is abysmal. He doesn't really throw down the field except for a couple of times where they caught the Chargers napping. But the Chargers have already showed that they can beat this team. I feel like they know them. They're comfortable with what they are going to do. They know how they play football. And I feel like the Chargers know that they can beat them. And so, yeah, I feel very good that if the Chargers are able to get past the Patriots on Sunday and they set up another meeting with the Broncos, that I feel confident that the Chargers can go into Denver and take another victory away from them in a season where they thought they all had it figured out.
Absolutely. And I'm buying it, and I'll go a step further, right? Like, I think the Broncos are terrified to get them again and for the Patriots to win this weekend and give them another matchup next week. Like, I think that I don't think the Broncos want any piece of the Chargers because, first of all, Bo Nix has still never beaten Justin Herbert. And I think, by the way, that the Broncos fans are reacting, like, I think it's a pretty insecure trash talk because I think that they went into that game hoping for a nice, easy game they could coast through and crown themselves as the number 1 seed in the AFC. And they had to sweat it out a lot more than they thought they would. And that offense, once again, with Bo Nix, really, really struggled against Jesse Minter specifically. And I think it's, now the third time that he's kept that offense at the Broncos under 20 points in the 4 times that they've matched up, Jesse Minter versus Bo Nix, and this time Jesse Minter did it with the backups, right? And also only allowed 12 points because 7 of that was a pick 6. So, yeah, I think the Broncos are terrified to get the Chargers again next week, and I do think that the one advantage that the Chargers have over other teams that are going to potentially play the Broncos is they're not afraid of Mile High. They beat them in Mile High last year, right? I think they absolutely would have beat them last week had Justin Herbert been playing, and that was with the backup defense out there. No doubt. And so I would say that, the Broncos can beat them. It is a tough place to play. That is a very good team and an elite defense that can just totally dysfunction your offense. Like, that is what it is. But I would pick the Chargers in that game and will if they get there because I think the Chargers have their number to a certain degree. I do think that, the Patriots are going to be really, really tough, but I think to get the Broncos and know you're getting the Broncos in the second round, if you can get there, is a big win for the Chargers because I think they would win it and send themselves to that AFC Championship game because the thing is when other teams have to go to the Broncos Mile High Stadium and they don't play there, maybe every several years they play there, that's hugely dramatic, and it's a really, really tough place to play. The Chargers just did it. Like,
and they're just not intimidated by that place.
Yeah, they didn't win, but they just played there. It's nothing surprising them about the elements or what they're going to face if they have to go play that game in Mile High to get to an AFC Championship game. So that is the one key distinct advantage they have over the rest of the teams in the AFC that might have to try to take the Broncos down. And I do think that, like I said, I'd favor the Chargers if they get there, especially buoyed off the performance that Broncos offense had last week. So that is going to wrap things up for today's show. The good news is Dave basically just told you he thinks the Chargers are going to the AFC Championship game, because tomorrow he is going to tell you why Justin Herbert is going to get his first playoff win this weekend against the New England Patriots. So to make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from, as well as finding the show every day on all of our social media, where you can also hit us up because we'll probably do at least one Chargers mailbag segment tomorrow at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. Or you can call into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 and get your 30-second Chargers question in. Blind Owl, I'll try to get you on tomorrow's show if we can. Maybe we'll try to repurpose. We had some really good buy or sells today. Thanks to the Everydayers. If you guys want to, make sure you check out the Locked On Everydayers Club, where you can get our exclusive Discord channel that we have, and also an ad-free version of this podcast on the audio version of it. So if you guys like that, $5 a month, $50 a year, we're still going to be doing the same amount on this show, and it'll always be free. But if you want a little extra and you want to get on the Discord channel and get an ad-free version audio-wise of the show, you can do that at lockedonchargers.supercast.com to check it out, or check it out in the show notes. But very excited about tomorrow. David, I know you are confident that this is the week that Justin Herbert is going to get his first playoff win. The bad news is you're going to have to hear tomorrow exactly why he thinks it's going to happen. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.